Ironhawk Financial, check them out today. Ironhawk Financial, you can reach out to Joseph Lombardi, managing partner, and call him at 203-815-3673. Give him a call. Been hooking up with a lot of my personal friends and contacts in this, well, I guess media industry. That's what we'll call it, right? Across the country. Lots of actual people that have huge platforms compared to mine. And they're just loving what Ironhawk Financial is bringing to them. Joseph Lombardi's bringing on lots of different brand partners, sponsorships, and more. And he's training new agents. So that's the other thing I want to talk about is if you're an agent out there, if you're selling a variety of services and you want to add something to your services, reach out to Ironhawk, Joseph Lombardi. He'll talk to you about what his program, soon to be announced, launching a national program to empower other agents to do exactly what he's doing, consulting those folks out there across this country and their financial situation. A lot of people don't know all the laws, all the financial gains and advantages of taking advantage of, well, certain ways of filing, certain ways of moving your money, the misconceptions of 401k and more. Don't sit around wondering why. Don't complain when it didn't happen. And don't blame Joe when you didn't give him a call. Joseph Lombardi, managing partner over at Ironhawk Financial, proud sponsor of the Kevin Allen Show. And make sure you let him know the Kevin Allen Show sent you. And how are we doing on this Friday afternoon? Hello, hello, hello. So, yeah, what am I doing here? It's Friday. I'm just going to pop on here. I got a couple of topics I do want to talk about. And as we're getting ready for some more shows going forward, it is July. It's hot today. July 7th, right? Isn't that the day? It's July 7th. Yes, it is. July 7th. It's moving fast, really fast. July 7th right here. And we have some topics I want to talk about right here today and just kind of flesh out a little bit. And of course, we're going to get deeper dives on these. We're going to be bringing in some professionals to help us understand why we're in the conditions we are in this country. You know, as I've gone through this very open and upfront spiritual journey, and it's been the most amazing experience of my life. I've seen and felt and have I know where I'm going with God. But as I'm on that journey, it's been how do I include my religious awakening and my political point of view? I've been really confused on how I bring that back to this platform. But there is a way to do it, and it's just using a word called respect. We don't have respect in our, and I'm going to say the first to be guilty of lacking some respect in the past with some of the folks that we used to go back and forth with. Now, I'm not going to, don't confuse my statement with anything other than when I say respect. Go back and forth with. Now, I'm not going to turn this down. Don't get confused when I criticize Chris Murphy or people that are in power, Republicans in power. It doesn't matter who they are because I'll get into that in a moment, why the Republicans and Democrats really don't matter. And that's really what my point is here to getting this conversation going is it really doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat in this country anymore. It does not matter. You know, we have a map that's going to convince us that the Republicans make up all of the rural parts of this country. Okay. All right. We all knew this. We all knew this, right? We all kind of knew that this was the case, didn't we? Didn't we all know that we actually make up, we conservatives, people that believe in this country, make up the majority of the states. Now those numbers are going down, and this is estimation for the 2024 election. There's no doubt in my mind that we know that the upcoming 2024 election is going to be one of the biggest elections in the history of this country. And if anyone thinks otherwise, you're living with your head in the sand. When I look at this map, what I see is a unique opportunity for, well, conservatives, but they don't know how to get their heads out of their butts to go out and make a difference in this country. And I'm targeting Republicans directly in this because as much as we see in North Dakota, South Dakota, I don't care where you pick, Arizona, Texas, Colorado's blue, Florida's red. Just go right up on where I am in Connecticut, right in that blue section. I mean, other than New Hampshire, which is the last frontier up there in New Hampshire, and I don't even know if they're that red when you look at what red means and what blue means. But New Hampshire, last one standing right there. And a big deciding factor in the primaries and elections in this country, always has been historically recognized. New Hampshire, live free or die in New Hampshire. But we all know in New Hampshire, just like like across the rest of this country, it's not the Democrats that you have to worry about. You don't have to worry about Democrats in New Hampshire. You don't really even have to worry about Democrats in Connecticut, and I'll get into it in a moment. We overemphasize what a D and R looks like in this country. We give them too much credit, the party too much credit. We actually built these parties into these monsters of energy that try to take credit for things they have nothing to do with. They're nothing more than big marketing companies that go out and market strategies, send all their consultants and their influencers and spend all their money, and they try to win races. And so when we look at America, why it seems so slanted, well, it has a lot to do with corporate media. We know what they slam down our throats in a consistent way. But we also know that America is not as broken as they say it is. We know in our small little communities, our world, yeah, there's lots of problems. There's poverty, there's racism, there's all these factors. But the one fact that I will stand up and 100% argue with anyone is the Democrats don't control America. Democrats don't control America. And I want someone to tell me right now how I am wrong that the Democrats. Now, is there a Democratic poser in D.C. right now in the White House? Yeah. But he doesn't control America. Biden doesn't control America. Congress has some sense of a voice in controlling America. Senate has some sense of a voice in America. But the president doesn't control America. We allow him or her. Maybe we should just have a her. Maybe that should solve all these problems. Get all the men out of there and let the women take over. We could allow a president to just operate under good conditions of the country, unlike what we see in these party politicians. And honestly, guys, I know this frustrates a lot of you because it seems like I'm just tooting horn. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, the Republican. I want to say it again. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, the Republican, because he's not a Republican. He's the closest thing to the conservative movement or patriotism, loyalty to this country, the foundation by its founders. He's the closest thing that has represented that. Or even more importantly, as someone who is a former Democrat, Donald Trump was, as someone who is supporting Democrats to get into office like he did with the Clintons and Obama, I think it's pretty obvious he's not really a politician. But yet we play the numbers. We play the numbers game. And of course, with the numbers game, you have to break it down and figure out, well, where are we going to lose? How are we going to lose this position? This is what okay, let me break it in. A little insider trading as a politician in recovery, but someone that's been around this political game long enough and very, very smart at it. You don't often hear me toot my own horn, but I'm going to say that I am very political astute. I am politically astute when it comes to the elections. I understand them. I don't know if it's just a ground fighting attitude, street fighting attitude that I understand. Maybe my corrections background, survival skills. I don't know why, but I understand it. And so when I look at a battle that I might be getting into, and if it's a verbal debate or if it's a philosophical debate, if it's I don't care if it's a standoff, we're going to be staring at each other for a staring debate. I don't care what the battle is. I prepare. And Republicans in this country, and it's really indicative in Connecticut. Connecticut itself has a real hard time getting themselves out of their way. All we hear every election in Connecticut, where I am unfortunately from right now at the Iron Hawk studio. Don't worry, we're looking to move out of Connecticut soon enough and save some taxes and get on the road. And once our shows start getting announced that we're going to be doing in 2024, it's going to be pretty amazing. But I'm here in Connecticut today, and one of the problems in Connecticut in the political climate is that the Republicans live with apathy. They're apathetic. They've already looked at the numbers, and they have decided they don't have a chance to win. And so it's going to be, let's walk away with our ball. We don't need to play. Let's just win the few seats we can in the few safe locations we can. This is Connecticut, folks. But it's a very good comparison to the country, because right here on this big old map you see, most of the states in this country are red. But even in those states that aren't red, by the way, they're not run by Democrats. No. The red states aren't run by Republicans, and the blue states aren't run by Democrats. Washington, D.C. is not run by a Democrat. It is obvious, folks, and I think some of you probably have a hard time with this when it comes to breaking down this kind of like information. Because you hear the polling numbers, the Quinnipiac polling numbers come in, and they're giving this to that, and 47% of these, and these are all skewed. These statistics are done by statistical professionals, people that go to school and get heavily educated on how to try to confuse us in numbers. The real numbers in this country, and they're not on this chart, and I apologize, but they will be in the future conversations we have, are the independents, the unaffiliated. And yes, libertarians like myself. I'm a libertarian. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a libertarian. What's that mean? What's a libertarian mean? What's an independent mean? Does an independent thinker need to go and get in line with and hold the Republican signs? Why are we losing across this country in communities, in states, and in the country to Democratic majorities when they're really not the majority of the voters in the states or in the country? Independents, look at the numbers, guys. Look at the numbers. Independents, unaffiliated. And yet we, as I said, in Connecticut and across this country, can't figure out how to bring people together because we got to stay in a divided lane because, well, quite honestly, I was listening to a great interview earlier of a potential guest, and I don't want to say his name until later because he's a big deal. He's on a YouTube channel interview talking about his book. I was talking about politicians and politics, really just associating politics. And it's amazing to me that people in this country think that we actually lose elections or elections are won by the majority party of a Republican or Democrat. They're not. That's a lie. That's a total misrepresentation. And you know what's sad is like corporate media doesn't dive into this. No one wants to really talk about how this is really playing out because there's a lot of great people. There's a lot of great people that will vote Democrat just because they're on the fence, and no one's going out to reach out to them because a lot of the Republicans, they don't even, when they put these walking sheets together and they do all their stuff for their elections, they forget about those people all the time. They forget about the independents, and I know they put them on the list. I've seen the list, guys. I'm not silly. I know. But they don't really focus on those as wins. They go back to the same wins they've got, and that's why they keep getting the same numbers and the same losses like here in Connecticut and across this country. And this matters because losing in the ballot box in America means losing control of your parental rights, of your freedoms you hold value to. Freedom of speech, your Second Amendment freedoms, your freedoms in this great country to live, be heard. They tell us that it's the Democratic controlled movement across this country. That's a lie. The Democrats do not control America. Independents, unaffiliated, libertarians, and Republicans make up more than them by far. But no one's capitalizing on that movement. No one's understanding how you tap into a system of inclusion. Inclusion. How do we get people to come to the table? Well, you're not going to get them the way you've been doing it. You're not going to get them the way you've been doing it. You're not going to do it by continuing to divide a country into two different categories. Republican and Democrats stand over here and here. Guys, it's not how it works. And the real players, the real OGs, the real Joe Bidens of the world, the real Hillary Clintons of the world, the real, and Trump himself, they all know this game. They got to play it. Because if they don't play the game of politics, you don't get a chance to play. Remember how everyone acted when Donald Trump was running for office? There is no way Donald Trump will be in the White House. That was said by every newscaster across the world. They got their pants taken down, folks. They got embarrassed. The system, the insiders, they got embarrassed. They never thought this guy, and probably in some ways, I'd love to ask Donald Trump, and someday I'll talk to him. I'll ask Donald Trump this question. You think someday, I get a chance to ask him? I won't ask him. I will ask him. Did you really think you were going to win? Did you think you were going to win? And if you did, when? When did it turn around? Because this country, including every Quinnipiac poll, I remember that night, guys, because I was running for the 45th House rep in Connecticut, the same ballot. Donald Trump was at the top of the ticket for the 45th president. I was at the bottom for the 45th House rep in Connecticut. Remember watching my numbers, and they came in early, and we were smoking my opponent, Tracy, who I really like a lot, and she probably should have won over me. But our numbers turned in really quick, and I think one of the things that is probably most imperative that we understand about this 2024 election is that if we can't stop listening to media about who we're voting for, in other words, where we're getting our information, we have to stop going to the same sources. Because all they do, folks, if you do anything and take away anything from a second, 2 seconds, 3 second listen, or 10 second, or if you listen to this whole rambling man here on a Friday, take away one thing. Democrats and Republicans don't matter in Connecticut, in the country. They don't matter in Connecticut. They don't matter in this country. They don't matter anywhere. It's a game that's being played on us, the American people, and it is being played by both sides. Both parties are involved in the game. And I'm saying this to you directly. I listen. I might be a Republican someday. Maybe I'll be a Democrat. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to be. I know right now my beliefs are libertarian. I want more rights, less government. I don't want to be told how and when. I want to be told you can live freely. I don't see that in either party right now. They're too preoccupied with trying to fight for control. But they're really not the ones that are deciding to control. It is the independents and unaffiliated in this country. We're gonna do a deeper dive on this topic really soon. As soon as we get the guests confirmed, we'll make some announcements about that because it's going to be a good long podcast that we're going to want to break it down and find out why we live in this world that's so preoccupied by party politics over actual facts, statistics, real people. Tell you what's real. You can give a real call to Ironhawk Financial over to Joseph Lombardi. Of course, we come to you each and every day right here from the Ironhawk Financial Studio. Wherever I am is the Ironhawk Financial Studio. Okay? Simple as that. In the Ironhawk Financial Studio, we're coming to you live each day. We put out the content. We're also driving people over to Ironhawk Financial, which is really important. So, guys, please do me a favor. Just sign up for an interview with Joe. He'll do a 10-minute quick discovery interview, figure out where you are, figure out if he can help you or not. And believe me, you want to know. Because how I can't. Okay, 3 weeks we've been on this Ironhawk Financial. In 3 weeks, everyone I've sent this guy to has come back and said thank you. Actually, there's one I was supposed to ask earlier. I got on a call with her and I didn't ask her. I will call her back and find out, and I'll let you know. Everyone has been very impressed because they've been put in a position to be confused in a lot of ways by those people that are currently handling their finances, 401ks, by a specific person. What Joseph Lombardi can do at Ironhawk Financial is take that existing pools of money, your 401ks, your retirement, your insurance, whatever you have, put it on the table. Let him advise you on the best way to put that. He's a consultant. He'll consult you in the best way. And he has a track record of over 20 years of success. Why he's won all kinds of national awards. And that is why Ironhawk Financial is currently launching a national campaign with the Kevin Allen Show as a partner and many more brand partners. Can't wait to announce those folks coming to be a part of Ironhawk Financial as they travel across the country, helping Americans, take back their freedoms and their rights with their finances. All right, so when we talk about America, and a lot of what goes on in America right now is, all just being driven down our throats by corporate media, by the political divided, the amp up of the 2024 election. And a lot of what we're also watching is a lot of gamemanship take place, legal gamemanship take place right in our own U.S. Congress, right in D.C., in the swamp. And I find it interesting because there's laws on the book The Freedom of Information, FOI, I call it FOIA. There's different names for it. Freedom of Information. Every time I've talked to a parent with concerns, every time I've talked to someone in local, state, or federal concerned about, having concerns about their government system, maybe not treating them fairly or doing the right thing, I say to everyone the same thing. I send them the FOI, Freedom of Information Act. And what's that do for somebody? It gives you the direction, folks, of where you should go. You're thinking about maybe you're having an issue in your local town with the Board of Education. The Board of Education. FOI them. FOI them. And I had the pleasure of being in Lisbon, Connecticut. Shout out to Lisbon, Connecticut. I used to represent them when I was a state representative. Beautiful little town, maybe 4,000 residents. I was invited by one of the residents to go to a Board of Ed meeting. By the way, dominated by Republicans on the Board of Ed in Lisbon, Connecticut. This little, very conservative red town, like I showed you right here in the blue state of Connecticut. A red town exists. There's a few, but this is this is why I say politics really is confusing to most, and your political affiliation really doesn't matter. Because I went into that Board of Ed meeting, folks, back in December. I remember I posted this up and we talked about it a little bit. The irony to me going to that event was I stood up and I just said simply to the Board of Education, I waited, by the way, for their attorney to talk about FOI. Their attorney in a public open meeting was briefing them on how not to respond to FOIs. This is true. This is a true fact. I was listening to this discussion. You can go on to the Lisbon Town website. I'm sure you can pull the minutes up. It was a meeting in December. I want to say it was early in December. I can pull it up for you and post it if you have a question you want to hear. They were talking about, from the attorney, telling this Board of Education how you can avoid having to respond to an FOI. Folks, I want to put together a service to anybody in this country. I will tap in every one of my resources. If you have an issue and you can't figure out how to file an FOI, reach out to me. Reach out to our producer, Mark, the producer. You can send a message right here to the show. You can find all of our emails, everything right here. You can see it. Send us a message and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you. You don't have to come on the show. I'm just offering this because I can't believe so many people don't know their rights. I can't believe people don't know their rights, and they don't know that they have the ability to question those people that are in authority. Those people that are in authority in your local, your state, and your federal level. I don't see why we should, in any way, shape, or form, feel a great concern when we ask our elected officials for answers. But you know what's happened, and I'm coming from a background, folks, of knowing how to respond to those things. I went through some really intensive training when I was the first selectman in Griswold, and anyone that might be watching this will recall the gun range here in Connecticut that was taking place in Griswold as the first selectman and state representative when we killed that deal. The state of Connecticut wanted to spend 30, 40, 80 million dollars. They wanted to take parts of the state forest. And ironically, at the time, I was very open minded to hearing, but always said the people would have to be heard. When the people were heard, I was easily directed by the people. Constituents talk. You listen. You do what they tell you to do. Right? They're your bosses, and I did. I think I lived through the example of not playing a game of Republican or Democrat. I actually played the game representing people, and we don't see that in the party politics today. And what they'll tell you is, well, you don't have access to that information. And the first time that an elected official says this to you, you want to make sure you have them on tape. You want to videotape them. Videotape the elected official or that person working in a capacity of government. And you want to videotape them. You want to get that response videotaped. And you'll see now they all got laws and rules they're trying to enact. You can't bring a camera into their town halls. You can't bring a camera here. Put the camera away. We're going to call the police. I won't talk to you till you put the camera away. They have no rights to tell you that, but we'll play that game. What you have as a citizen in America, in every community in America, is freedom of information. You can FOI the information from them. We want to find out what the log was of who came into the White House. We can access that. Now they'll say they have to redact things and they got to do things. We can be told those things along the way. And some of those are justified under the current law. But we know that, and many of us haven't been savvy enough to put together FOIs to challenge these people. So as it's the heat of summer, it's July 7th, and we're not thinking about, school just yet. But folks, there's a lot of you out there that aren't going to forget about what they did to you for the last 2 years, what they caused your family to go through, how they destroyed communities and relationships. And what I mean by they, those people that pushed the divide during the COVID response. We saw Board of Eds, we saw them carry that right into this wokeness that's taking place across the country. And this is biblical, folks. This is biblical. This is, right versus wrong is God to me, right? I don't know what God means to you. It's right versus wrong. Telling a 5-year-old child about sexual choices is wrong. And how do we get to that? How do we correct that? You know what, guys? You got to start using this system right here, freedom of information. And the act is on your side. We're going to keep posting. I did post it up right here. You can click on, go to the Freedom of Information Act. I think I clicked into the website, or actually, no, it might have been a dictionary version of what it is, so you can break it down, see all the sources, and investigate it yourself. If you are on a board of education, if you are on the board of finance, if you are in a serving capacity of any community in a town council, if you serve in state office, if you serve in federal office, and you don't have the insides and outs of the freedom of information, and you don't know what your constituents are going to ask you, you actually could be held culpable. You could be held, if you deny even to an hour, they could sue you if you deny them access. And we don't play this game enough because during this game of lawfare in this country, where we see people using lawfare as a mechanism. We saw it in the election of 2020. We saw it with the Biden-Harris bus down in Texas. They used their archaic law, the KKK law from 17. They know the laws because they researched them. And again, they might be representing the Democratic Party. They're just evil. They're evil. I pray for them. I love those people, the evil people they are. I love them, the sinners. But they utilize law. And it's kind of ironic that the same law now we're seeing being used against Donald Trump in his most recent charge of having classified information goes back to what, the 30s? Goes back to the 30s, folks. Talk about an institution. The Democrats, the pros, the people that are in charge, the people that get to be in these positions by convincing the voters that they're a better choice or stealing it in some way. Who knows? Using media, whatever sources. I'm making no claims of official capacity. I'm just making claims of stealing it. Don't define me for that word of saying steal. The big steal, I didn't associate with any of that. But we do know corruption takes place, and it's defined under law and statute because even when the claims come from other people than Donald Trump, there's a process for voter fraud in every state and every community. So it exists. No one can deny it. The only difference is Donald Trump said it. Donald Trump said it. And see, as soon as he said these things that people think, we heard those in government positions get even louder. They told us we couldn't go into buildings without masks on. They told us we couldn't go into Board of Education meetings. We couldn't go to our churches. We couldn't go into our gyms. We couldn't get together. Restaurants need to be closed down. They did all this to us, really without any good reason. And when you ask questions, they said because. And I have when I say hundreds, I'm saying hundreds upon thousands of people I've talked about freedom of information with over the last probably 5 to 6 years across this country. I'm not an expert, although maybe I could be considered one because I handled freedom of information for the town that I represented. I was very involved in freedom of information. I actually had many lawsuits that I went through FOIA and was exposed to lawsuits representing the town then on. I know it can be done, but I'm just wondering, why is it that we don't seek the truth? Well, it gets back to the word I used about, the people in Connecticut and across this country. They hear that the Democrats are winning, even though they see this red. They hear that the Democrats are winning, and their apathy kicks in. And they say, why bother? Why bother filing a FOI request, the Freedom of Information Act, when I'm just going to get in my car and drive to work, and I'll kick the the tire, not the dog. And I'll complain at the TV when I watch the news, but I'm just going to go to bed right after that because I got to get up tomorrow because I'm too busy just being an average everyday American and watching this country fall apart. So those people that stand up, those people that have proven that they have the ability to stand up and ask these questions, I'm going to continue to talk about freedom of information and continue to share with you how you have every right to the information of your government anytime you want, and you need to seek it. We're going to continue to share this and more. It is a Friday, folks. It's hot in New England. Go out and enjoy yourself. Stay cool. Make sure you're not out there doing too much in the heat. Stay hydrated. Make sure you're going to cool spots, get some shade, maybe go to the beach, hang out. Don't drink too much because it doesn't work in the, when I used to drink alcohol in the heat, it actually just made you thirstier. Go out and enjoy your family and your community and love God and love your country. We'll talk to you soon on the Kevin Allen Show.